Hello, this is Paul Johnson for Film Obsessive. Today I have two guests. They are Kaveh Daneshmand, who is a director of the new film Endless Summer Syndrome. I also have Gem Deger, who is also in the film as an actor. He plays the character Aslan, one of two teen, nearly adult adoptive children in Endless Summer Syndrome. He too, alongside Kaveh, is credited with the film's story and as co-producers. So I'd like to welcome you both to Film Obsessive.
Thank you very much, Paul, for inviting us.
And can I start with you, Kaveh, and have you talk just a little bit about what Endless Summer Syndrome is about?
Endless Summer Syndrome is a story of a mother who receives a phone call about the possibility of her husband having something going on with one of their two adopted children. And the story follows this mother as she goes through investigation, through self-doubt, uh, to discover whether this allegation is true or not.
It's a fascinating story, and since the two of you are co-credited with it, can I ask where it comes from, if you will, and how it took shape in its development?
Well, the story, the idea, the one-liner of the story was a matter of a discussion between me and Jem. One evening, we were brainstorming various stories, and eventually we reached this point with this mother, and we think, okay, this sounds like an interesting setup. Let's explore it. And it's literally as simple as that. We were really workshopping many ideas, thinking, what about this? What about that? And then this one, when it was uttered, we were both looking like, actually, this seems like something we can explore. And that's how it started.
You know, it strikes me as a setup and a script that both require a degree of sensitivity towards and understanding your central female protagonist. Could you and or Jim speak to that?
Well, I'll say a little bit. I'm sure Jim can add a lot to it. Of course, it was quite hard to write a female character, right? We had to live in her shoes. And every moment of the story as we were building it, we were thinking, where is she? Where is she? Where is she mentally? Where is she emotionally? We kept asking ourselves. And of course, this process continued even when we co-wrote the script with a French writer who is a female writer. And then when the story went on to be re-explored by the actors, it went through many, many filters and layers of supervision and observation by various creative forces in the story. Jem had a lot of insights and inputs in the story, not only the main character, but also the other characters and some of the most important twists in the story. So I'll leave the rest to Jem to continue.
Well, I mean, regarding to female perspective in the film, honestly, when we were writing the story, or not even writing, just constructing the story, I don't think I personally really focused on the female perspective because I think what this character is going through is would be quite terrorizing regardless its gender. You know, like you're receiving a phone call about one of your kids is having an affair with your partner. So regardless the gender of the lead character, I think it's a hook as a story. Like immediately you're interested on where this story is gonna take us. And when establishing this female character, I think Kaveh's input in creating Delphine was more in hand with. I'm sorry, I'm not making any sense right now. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I've never treated this character in its creation as a female character or a male character. For me, what was important is that what she is going through, which is paranoia, which is very human. So I didn't really, personally, I didn't really think of her gender throughout the creation of the character.
And can I ask, you both are based in Prague, is that correct?
Yes.
And was it always the intent to have the family be French and the film set on the location that you had found?
Gem?
I mean, not really, honestly. We because it's I think it's quite as a topic, it's quite universal. So first, we didn't really think about the setting, and initially we wanted to shoot it in Prague. However, we didn't want to make the story in Czech because both of us we don't really speak Czech. It felt quite irrelevant. Initially, we wanted to make it in English, but then we couldn't really come up with a believable family who would speak in English, who would be, native English speakers and live in Prague and go through this. So at that point, we started to really brainstorm over which nationality this family should be. And then we decided that it would be French because we also had some friends in France who would help us with finding a location and so on. So it was a little bit not really calculated, I would say.
I'm curious too, for the both of you, if there are directors or films which you discussed as potential influences. To me, the film seems in some ways very much like a paranoid thriller, but also in the tradition of maternal melodrama without being, excessively melodramatic or anything like that.
I just say one thing that I think sheds light on this process of watching reference films. Jem and I have a long tradition of watching films together. We have a film night that has been going on for a very long time. So we have tons of films that we watch together. And of course, as soon as we came up with this idea, our film nights were quite directed into finding exact references that would inspire us. The obvious inspiration was Swimming Pool by Francois Ozon.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of other films, but I think this film was the most iconic reference visually, the suspense, the swimming pool, the nudity, the sexuality and the tension that's in the sexuality, and the mystery of following this woman who is trying to decipher the environment around her.
You also found yourselves a marvelous location for the shoot. Can I have you speak to that?
It's it is a fantastic chateau which belongs to a couple who are very, very um, deeply supportive of culture, and we had a very nice meeting with them, and we know them through our cinematographer and one of our producers who our producer, one of them is from the region where the chateau is. So they knew the chateau owners in person and they were very supportive of us. It was during the lockdown, so the chateau was luckily empty for the period we wanted to shoot. And they were very kind to let us not only accommodate our cast and crew, in fact, all our cast were living in the same rooms as their characters in the stories, which was quite fun. And then we also shot the film in the location, and beautiful 20 days of a stay in this chateau.
It works incredibly well for the film. And one of the other things I wanted you to comment on was the casting in the film. I'm suspecting that the two of you had always agreed that Jem would play in the film.
Yeah, honestly,
Uh,
yes. That was that like when we were already writing the story, and the moment when we had the idea, I mean, there was not a debate, you know. It was like, okay, I'm Aslan for sure. And as we were writing him, he became more and more me. I mean, I put so many personal stuff onto that character. So like before we even shot it, even on a script level, I was pretty much connected with him. But it wasn't the case for the rest of the cast. But however, each cast member, we picked them on a very fun process actually. Like for example, Sophie, who plays Delphine, we decided that we want her from a photo only. You know, we had like some options of actors who could play her, and the moment we saw her face, we were like, this is somehow is the woman we've been imagining, and it's really her. So I really feel like casted themselves into this film rather than us picking it, because I don't really feel like there was a choice there. You know, we saw these people, and then we were sure that we want to make this film with them.
Well, props to all of you, and you are excellent in the film. And I think I just have to make note that I really appreciated Sophie Cologne's performance. She is on screen most of the time in the film as the point of view character, and she does have a great bit to do in kind of filtering, the audience's understandings of what is happening through her mind. And she can do it a lot by pursing her lips and nodding her brow. But I think we come to understand her character very well through her kind of paranoid investigation into the truth of the matter. It's such a provocative film in so many ways. Kaveh, you are making so many interesting directorial choices. Are there a couple that you would wish to speak to for our audience, just in terms of perhaps creating suspense or using the now somewhat unusual squarish aspect ratio for the film or your cinematography, whatever you might like to discuss?
Well, the idea we had when it comes to suspense was we were not planning to hide information from the audiences. Minute 50, we know who is in a relationship with whom. Minute 70, we know there is a suicide. Minute 75, we know that three family members are alive and are giving interviews in the police station. So it's not the material we wanted to work with, which was twists, unexpected twists. We were thinking on how to tell the story in an exciting way. There are a lot of borrowings from, of course, the great works of, Hitchcockian cinema, right? Our main compass was that form of cinema that works with very rich suspense. We tried to do as much as we could with our limited number of shooting days, which was ridiculously low. There were a lot of tricks, cliches, such as the imagination scene of the mother seeing the father and the son, the daughter in the kitchen. It's a very typical cliche scene, but the way we tried to do it was we tried to do it in a captivating way so that this cliche comes to be acknowledged not as a cliche, as a very striking, even breathtaking moment, we hoped. So clearly all these ideas were decided in a group. I was not the only person making the decision. A lot of these decisions were made between me and Gem. Then Laureen, who was the co-screenwriter, got involved. Then the actors got involved. Then the DOP got involved. Art director got involved. Sound design. And I believe that's why this film is really a result of a group of creative minds. All had one direction: create suspense, meaningful, hopefully, and then try to find the best ways, given the limited resources we had, to execute it.
Can I ask, in following up, and this is really for both of you, if the fact that the matter of fact that the script is dealing with such an explicit taboo impacted your filmmaking choices in any specific ways?
Well, on a story level, it was already quite explicit. I remember Jem can also talk about it when we would come up with some scenes, for instance, Adia being naked by the pool just casually, we were thinking this is not going to be very comfortable, especially after the phone call and after, all the paranoia around the mother. And we were giggling as we were working on the scenes because we knew it would feel uncomfortable, right? And of course, we were already thinking we need to create a very safe environment for our cast. And we did, and I'm sure Jem agrees that we are quite close to our cast up until today, 3 years after the principal shooting. So by the time we were shooting, everybody understood what we were doing. There was so much of transparency about our film language that actors were completely okay. I mean, Jem was in a very, very intense scene himself. So I think he can speak much better than me about how it felt to deal with nudity.
I mean, before we even shot the film on, I mean, well, that's the point, because the product, the film you see, it's only the final result, right? But how we ended up with that film is basically it had so many stages on the way. And I think the main stage of why this film is highly provocative, because we felt like that's the only way, because I don't know if you're aware of how the film industry works in Europe, but Kaveh is from Iran, I'm from Turkey, and we both live in Czech Republic. And the film industry in here works with public funds, but usually we're never eligible for these funds because we're not from Europe. We're basically two randos who doesn't have a home, literally, trying to make a film on a different culture. And since every odds are against us, and this includes for distribution and all the later processes of the film. So one thing that we had to be was brave and different. There is no place for anything mediocre when you're working with very limited resources, because you don't want to just make a film. You want to make a film that is gonna intrigue people. It's gonna make people really want to talk about it, hate it, even doesn't matter, but like it has to really bring some sort of an extreme emotions on the audience. So that's why that was basically the main reason why we wanted to take a provocative road on making this film. And also, the topic itself, it has so much background to it. There is even a porn category, as father daughter, father son, stepfather stepson, and it goes on and on. So basically, yes, in the context, it's quite disturbed, sexually disturbed. It's fucked up, yeah, hands down. But again, even though it's disturbed and it's fucked up, people do click onto these porns and watch it, and because they're curious, it really makes them curious in the end. So basically, at that moment, once we had the main idea for the film, we knew that it's a clickbait almost, it's something that people will find problematic for sure, but also they'll find it interesting enough to wanting to see that. So once we were aware of the territory we're in, we had that deliberate decision on, let's force this. This is our winning card as an independent filmmakers. This is the catch, and this is what we're gonna play on, because we don't have a named actor. We're hardly shooting this film. So one thing that it can't be is boring. So we knew this was our strong card. So we basically just leaned on it and really put that aspect of the film forward.
And I want to congratulate you both for that. And those are the things that make the film exciting, interesting, worth discussing to me, and as you put it, both brave and disturbing. Gem and Kaveh, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us at Film Obsessive today. Again, the title of the film is Endless Summer Syndrome, and it appears day and date in North American theaters and on streaming services this Friday, December 13th. Okay. Thank you both.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all.